How old are your granddaughters?
They are 6 and 8.
Would you support them to get hormone blockers to become the other gender?
I would absolutely support them to get hormone blockers. The idea of one of my granddaughters learning that they're going to start having their period if they don't get their hormones blocked, even though they're identifying and portraying as a male, how horrible that would be. So yes, definitely.
If your granddaughter came to you and wanted to get a tattoo, what would you say?
That would be more difficult. I always told my 3 sons the one thing I ask is please don't get tattoos.
Really? Why tattoos?
There's just something so permanent about it.
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
Tattoos.
There's just something so permanent about it.
Permanent?
It's pretty permanent. It's very difficult to get them lasered off or removed.
You don't think it's like permanent to change your gender?
Busted. Oh.
You stupid.
What about now? Trump has been in a Manhattan courtroom for the past week and a half. He's going to be for the foreseeable future. Do you think it's going to have any impact on the general election?
If he's convicted, yes.
Only if he's convicted.
Yeah, and look, if he's found not guilty, then, he'll run around saying, see, it was all a witch hunt and blah, blah, blah. But look, I'll say 2 things about this. The first is about this particular experience he's having. Now, I spent 7 years as a prosecutor. I was the United States Attorney in New Jersey for 7 years, the 5th largest U.S. Attorney's office in the country. A criminal trial is a really awful thing to go through. And if you look at Trump physically right now, he looks terrible.
Mm-hmm. In the quiet words of the Virgin Mary, come again.
And if you look at Trump physically right now, he looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because he's fat. This is why I never eat at Chick-fil-A. I ordered a spicy chicken deluxe and a small mac and cheese. There's really not much to this. Combined with both of these food items, they contain over 265 ingredients. No 2 foods should contain that many ingredients. What are the ingredients in here? I've never even heard of. It's called dimethylpolysiloxane. This is a food additive that is used as an anti-foaming agent from silicone. It's also found in industrial lubrication and cosmetics. There's also dough conditioners here, obviously in the bun, like datum and monodiglycerides, which come through oil processing using soy oil, hydrogenated oil, which are trans fats. These, of course, are all pro-inflammatory agents. This is not going to sit well on your digestive system.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret zone at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume. I'm kind of retarded.
I want to start by thanking all the people that have been sharing these videos out. I appreciate it more than words can even express. And for those of you that haven't shared it out, please do so. I'm not asking for a lot here. I just want to get to a point where I start getting some hate mail and maybe a few death threats. Come on, help me out. And with that, let's get to it. Don't you just love when all these assholes try to tell you that no one is above the law? I mean, that's why the DOJ is going after Trump, is just trying to hold him accountable because no one is above the law. Never mind that the president before him was responsible for killing American citizens, including a 14-year-old, with no due process whatsoever, overthrowing multiple Middle Eastern and North African countries. The president before him lied us into multiple wars and caused untold death and destruction. The president president before him was involved in transferring nuclear secrets to North Korea, missile secrets to China, not to mention before he was president being tied to drug running, along with his predecessor as president. Shit, I could go on and on all fucking day, but all of a sudden, no one is above the law. And right here where I live down in South Florida, I'm in Broward County, and the sheriff here, they've been trying to go after him on some piddly little shit. He was put into office shortly after the whole Parkland school shooting because the former sheriff, who people from the time I moved here 12 years ago were telling me how fucking corrupt the Broward Sheriff's Office was, and that didn't seem to matter all that much, but after the shooting at Parkland, this asshole got up there with the fucking kids at the BB&T Center where the Florida Panthers play and started running his dick suckers about how, oh, this is because of the guns and we need to have more common sense gun control. Shortly after that, he got removed by DeSantis.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry.
And then Gregory Tony's been there ever since, and now all of a sudden they're gonna suspend his license to be a cop. And why? I mean, he must have done something pretty egregious, right? Oh, well, when he went to get his Florida driver's license, he apparently provided inaccurate information. He checked the no box, which asked if his license had ever been suspended. Of course, this license suspension was over 20 years prior, back in 1998. So the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's been really going after him, which is kind of surprising to me because of that whole thin blue line shit. Normally cops will do anything to protect other cops, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. And they say, oh, well, he's the sheriff, so he's got to be held to a higher standard. Which, yeah, I do agree with, but this is something that, shit, I could see myself making that same mistake. It's not like he got caught making inaccurate statements regarding a law enforcement matter, unlike some other douchebags I could mention, namely the FBI. I mean, if a sheriff is supposed to be held to this high standard, well, what about FBI agents? Because just this past week, the Department of Justice agreed to pay out $138.7 million to 139 different victims of Larry Nassar, the doctor who was molesting the girls on the U.S. gymnastics team. Well, he got convicted back in 2018 and sentenced to, like, I don't know, 75 fucking years in prison. But then 3 years later, you get the Inspector General's report where the FBI agents that were handling the allegations that were being made against this asshole years before he was even arrested provided incomplete and inaccurate information to make it appear that they had been diligent in responding to the sexual abuse allegations, because in reality they just tucked him away and didn't do anything about him, allowing 100 and some odd girls to get molested after the fact. So now they're paying a bunch of these girls money, but where's the accountability? I didn't notice anything here about any actions that are being taken against these FBI agents. What happened to the being held to a higher standard? What happened to the no one is above the law? And as for this thin blue line thing, I don't know, maybe it's just that I've never seen it very well defined what that thin blue line thing is exactly supposed to mean. To me, it always seemed like it was representative of supporting the police no matter what, because they have such a tough job. And sure, they may make mistakes, but I've never been one to subscribe to that, because all too often cops do bad things and the cop next to him does nothing about it, which in my mind makes that cop just as much of a piece of shit. So when I saw this meme pop up like 5-6 days ago, it was hilarious, some of the replies that they were getting for this. People talking about how, oh, well, yeah, but we have to have the cops. I mean, if somebody breaks into your house, who are you gonna call? Well, if you think that calling the cops is gonna save you when somebody fucking kicks your door in, you might as well be calling the Ghostbusters. And by the time somebody is inside of your house, you're gonna need nothing short of a for real no shit miracle for a unit to get there before something bad happens. If somebody breaks into my house, the only reason that I'm gonna call the cops is because I have to, by law, to have them come and haul the body off. But there's this whole other false paradigm between the people that are all cops are bastards and the people that are, oh, we have to support the police no matter what. Like, there's no kind of middle ground. Whereas I just look at it as, hey, well, you know, I'll support the police if they're in the right. Which brings me to these recent college-free Palestine protests. It was about exactly 4 years ago when the Summer of Love kicked off, and you had all these protesters, burning and looting and beating people into oblivion, and the police took a very much hands-off approach. And now this time, you've got college kids that are, for the most part, just setting up tents and occupying common spaces in universities, and they're sending in the fucking riot squad to tune these kids up. But unlike the anti-war protesters back in the 60s on universities, these kids today have a little bit different of an attitude. I mean, these are the kind of kids that they get pulled over and the most they're facing is a fucking traffic citation. And they have this attitude like,
if you want to stop me, you're gonna have to fucking kill me!
so now here they are trying to peacefully protest for a cause that they believe wholeheartedly to be righteous. And they just can't fucking believe how they're being treated. Like this lady, I guess she thought because she's a professor, she'll get treated with the kid gloves. Hey, look, she just can't believe it. Can't these police see that I'm a white woman? And what does the fucking idiot GOP douchebags do? Rather than take this issue that's dividing the left and exploit it, they decide to run and dive onto their fucking sword and go, yeah, we're gonna side with the cops. In fact, they should send in the National Guard. Yeah, I seem to remember the National Guard getting called into a college protest once, and if memory serves me, it didn't work out too well. But yeah, what a great political strategy. Let's push for an even more ham-fisted response. The only thing is, they're not that stupid. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Everyone from the House Speaker Mike Dickface down to Greg Abbott in Texas saying, oh, these people belong in jail. I mean, this is hate speech. Coming from the Republican governor of Texas. You gotta be a real piece of shit for your position to be so fucked up that I take the side of these asshat college kid protesters. Lots of people have been saying they expect to see a Summer of Love 2.0, and maybe this is the beginnings of it. Instead of police brutality and the commies teaming up with the disillusioned black people, this time it'll be the commies teamed up with the Islamis. So I guess we've got that to look forward to. And then meanwhile, we got the FBI director keeps putting out these big warnings about how we're in so much danger of a coordinated terrorist attack. Yes, thank you, Captain Obvious. And you would think that this would motivate him to call for closing the flow of fucking people coming across the southern border, but not a word about that shit. The truth is, it's a little too late. We got these little proxy wars going on in multiple theaters, but sure, let's just let people flood into the country. Hey, let's send billions more dollars to Israel. And let's also send billions of dollars to Palestine and another $60 billion to Ukraine. I mean, why not? It's not like we're dumping money into an unwinnable war. I'm sure this final $60 billion package to Ukraine will be enough, right?
Is $60 billion enough money for Ukraine to push back Russia decisively?
Well, we hope so. It's actually only 0.2% of our gross domestic product. So put in that context, it's not a whole lot of money for us, but it's a very significant step for them because it gives them the more sophisticated weapons they need to hold the Russians at bay. And we're optimistic these people are going to win. I mean, the Russians are trying to take their country.
What a shitbag this guy is. And I think a lot of the people that believe that all we have to do is get Trump back in the White House and everything will be magically fixed are going to be in for a rude awakening, because the fact of the matter is that doesn't change that both parties are corrupt. I mean, sure, there's more people, it seems, in the Republican Party that, God forbid, actually represent and act in the interest of the people that voted him into office. Or at least pretend to, anyway. But even if the upper echelons of the Republican Party weren't just as corrupt as the Democrats, and even if he gets the House and the Senate and the White House, that doesn't magically fix the situation with all the enemies we've made around the world, militarily as well as economically. It doesn't change the debt crisis, from sovereign debt to corporate debt to household credit card debt. It's all still going to be there, and we're still going to be facing a situation that, by the standards of the modern conveniences that our society has grown completely accustomed to and dependent on, is going to seem nothing short of apocalyptic. And you think about all the predictive programming that happened in the years and even decades leading up to 9/11. All these seemingly coincidental images sort of primed the pump and prepped the American psyche for what they were about to face. And then I think about that in relation to the emergence of post-apocalyptic genres of movies and TV shows. And I think about the weird kind of cognitive dissonance in the American psyche. We're almost obsessed with these post-apocalypse movies, from The Walking Dead to Mad Max. And yet at the same time, the average American walks around acting like that shit could never fucking happen. Even though history is full of examples of civilizations rising and falling. And if that fall happens to us now with the way that our society has become completely helpless and domesticated, it still just seems unfathomable to most people. Never underestimate the power of denial. I must say though, I myself enjoy the shit out of post-apocalyptic movies, especially a lot of the older, more obscure ones from like the 80s and 90s. I'm curious, tell me down in the comments below, what's your favorite post-apocalypse movie? I already know what my answer is, and I'll reveal that in next week's video, but I'm kinda curious to see if anybody names one that I haven't seen yet. Slancha.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. Say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. Don't fuck with me! I told you! Don't fuck with me! You stupid fuck! Look at you now! Look at you now!